Hello, I'm Claire Smith and welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be a random fragrance question tag. So I have been tagged by John at Scented Snowdrops, and this tag was created by Pep the Sentinel here on YouTube. And I'm going to leave both of their channels linked down below in case you do want to check either of those two creators out. But I'm also going to tag some other people to keep this tag going. So first of all, I'm going to tag Danielle at Perfume Journal. So Danielle is someone I've known for a while. I first found her content on Instagram and now she's started creating videos on YouTube. She's been growing at an astronomical rate and I'm sure she will have surpassed 1,000 subscribers by the time I put this video out. But just in case she hasn't, please do go check out Danielle's channel. I'd also like to tag Karen at New Day New Scent. So Karen I've been watching for just over a year now and she creates list videos in general, but her lists are usually quite inventive ideas. And I just really have been enjoying watching her content. So please do go check out Karen as well at New Day New Scent. I'll leave both channels linked down below. So if you haven't seen me before, I'm Claire and I make videos all about perfumes. So if that kind of thing interests you and you haven't already done so, then please do consider subscribing and please also press the like button if you do end up enjoying this kind of content. So let's get on with this 10 random fragrance questions. So the first question is, what is next on your to buy list? I'm probably going to sound like a broken record, but really the one that I just cannot stop thinking about is Amouage's Portrayal. And the reason I haven't bought it yet is because it's just very expensive. This will be the most expensive fragrance that I'd ever bought. And honestly, the other thing that's really putting me off this is the fact that I can only really buy 100ml bottles of it. I don't really need 100ml of anything anymore. I would really prefer a smaller quantity. I wish they made 10ml, 20ml, something like that. But it's a beautiful fragrance and I just do absolutely love it. If you haven't tried it, it's a jasmine and also to me tuberose fragrance, even though it's not listed. And there's also just this beautiful tobacco and it's just kind of resinous and it's got this lovely muskiness in the dry down as well. It's just a stunning fragrance and I just think I need to own it. So yeah, Amouage's Portrayal, my favourite Amouage that I've tried, I think. So question 2 is, if you had to choose one designer brand and one niche brand, mainstream brands, which would you choose? So I think for me, I'm not a brand loyal kind of person. So this is a really difficult question for me because I tend to like individual fragrances and it's rare for me to like more than a few from a brand. The one that I would probably choose would be the one that I find an easy reach kind of brand, and that would be the main line from Galan. I could choose a lot of different other brands. I could choose Hermes, Narciso Rodriguez, Givenchy even, Dior. They all really appeal to me, those brands. With the niche brands, I think I find it even more difficult because I'm even more picky at higher price points, I think. And I think probably I might have chosen Kilian or even Frederic Malle a few years back. But I think now I might choose something like Diptyque maybe. I'm currently deciding between two fragrances from Diptyque and I'm not sure which one to get. But I don't actually have any Diptyque in my current collection, although that's probably likely to change very shortly. I think really the one brand that I have liked multiple fragrances from is Amouage. And I know that's such a trendy thing to say, but I actually like the older fragrances. I like the ones before they got famous, basically. I think I like things like Portrayal, as I've said, and also Lilac Love as well. Yeah, there's just something about Amouage that appeals to me. So question 3 is, what has been your best and worst blind buy? So I really try not to blind buy these days because I just find I'm not that good at it anymore. I guess I've got more picky as I've gone along. But my best blind buys, I feel, were in my early days of YouTube. And I was just really into everything. I just wanted to experience all these fragrances that people were talking about. I was really excited and I was buying a lot. But I just got some amazing bargains back in those days. So brand new bottle of Insolence, a 50ml, for £30. You could not get anywhere close to £30 anymore. Another one that I knew absolutely nothing about and I just took a complete chance on was Found at Dusk by Miller Harris, and that really set off a little bit of an odyssey into the world of Miller Harris, and it made me discover a lot of other fragrances from Miller Harris that I really love as well. But yeah, that first one, I think it was something like £20 and I bought it from TK Maxx. And I remember just being in TK Maxx for ages trying to decide which of these Miller Harris fragrances to get. and I'd had a really bad day at work. But actually, I opened it and it was truly one of the best purchases that I've ever made. It was something that really spoke to me, and that was really the first time when I smelt a fragrance and it took me somewhere. It took me to a time. It took me to a time in my childhood. And that just opened a whole new world for me with fragrance and made me realise just the beauty of it. So yeah, that's probably my best blind buy. So my worst blind buy is actually one by the same brand, Miller Harris. So Miller Harris I was really just into, and I was buying a lot of their fragrances and I was enjoying a lot of their fragrances. I was having really great success with that brand, and I just got a bit cocky. I was just thinking, I'll like everything. And I bought Rose en Noir and I just did not enjoy it. It smelled like dusty potpourri to me. And yeah, that's probably the one that really stands out. Another one that I really thought I would like and I really didn't was White Rose by Florist. So that fragrance is famous for being Queen Elizabeth's wedding fragrance. And I just thought I'd love that kind of vintage vibe to it. But I didn't. It just smelled, weirdly, it smelled a little bit like beef dripping to me. The kind of the dryness in a pan after you've roasted some beef, that kind of taste, but in a smell. And yeah, from the notes, I'd never have guessed that one. You know, it's a floral, it's a powdery floral, but that's not what I got. Also, obviously, every Lattafa I've ever bought, bar maybe a Mir Al Oud Intense Oud, they were pretty bad blind buys. So yeah, those are my worst blind buys. So question 4 is, which fragrance do you most regret purchasing? And I'm going to take this question as meaning a fragrance that you still have in your collection that you regret purchasing. So I think the one that stands out to me is the EDP of La Petite Robe Noire. I really bought that one to replace an EDT, very fresh feeling flanker that I had called Plissé. And I wanted that fragrance to wear to work because I wore Plissé a lot to work. And I felt like there might be something missing in my collection without Plissé. So I just randomly bought the EDP, and I really feel like I should have got an EDT. It's just not fresh enough. It's not a fragrance that suits the situation that I want to wear it for. So that's the fragrance that I most regret buying, La Petite Robe Noire, the EDP version. Question 5 is, which is your most complimented perfume? I actually have quite a few fragrances that just consistently get compliments, and I honestly don't understand what means they get compliments or what means they don't get compliments, but I guess a lot of the time they're on the sweeter side and also they're on the louder side. I feel, compliments are surely a function of how much people can smell you, as much as whether they like it or not. So I guess, something louder is going to get you more compliments, isn't it? So the ones that I consistently get compliments on are things like Montal's Intense Cafe, Replica Bubble Bath, which is really the one that I'm never really sure why people like that one. I guess because it's clean and because it's quite a distinctive smell, maybe. And also it's a little bit nostalgic. It takes you back to childhood, doesn't it, with that kind of bubble bath feel. The other one that I can think of is Gucci Guilty Absolute Parfum. That one gets a lot of compliments, and I guess that's because it's kind of fruity and it's quite punchy maybe. And also the other one is Fragrance de Bois Sirène. I think people just haven't smelt that kind of fragrance before if they've only smelt, in general, designer fragrances. And I think Sirène probably just really stands out because it's fruity, it's got that oud in it, giving you that fuzzy warmth. It's got the cypriol with that kind of greenness, but it's also creamy. It's just a really interesting fragrance, and I think that comes across to people. So yeah, Sirène as well. So question 6 is, what is the most expensive and least expensive fragrance in your collection? So hands down, most expensive was Amouage's Lilac Love. It's probably always going to be an Amouage fragrance, isn't it? Because they're, pushing it with the price point a little bit. The least expensive, I would probably choose a celebrity fragrance. So Stash SJP 100ml was £12. Also Pharrell Williams Girl, I think that was a similar price for the similar amount. There's also Le Bain, that was £9 for 75ml. I think there are just some brands out there where you can get a really great fragrance for not a lot of money. I would say Dupe is one, and also Lalique is one, and also Fragonard. Fragonard makes some great fragrances for not a lot of money. I think you just need to be picky with your brands And also just you have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find a prince with a cheap fragrance, don't you? So yeah. So question 7 is, which is the most represented brand in your collection? I actually had a lot of fun trying to work this out, and I realised that it's Mugler still. I didn't think it still would be, but it is. So Mugler, I think it's 8 different fragrances from Mugler in my collection. And that's just because I went a bit crazy with Mugler fragrances when I first started getting into fragrance back in 2019, 2020. And I bought a lot at once. And really all the fragrances I've got date from 2020 and earlier. And some fragrances I have 2 or 3 bottles of. So for example, Alien, I have lots of vintage Alien because that's a really special fragrance to me. And I really made it my mission to try and find things like Alien Essence Absolute as well. And I'm just really pleased I managed to find things like that. But yeah, I was totally obsessed with Mugler, specifically Thierry Mugler fragrances when I first got into perfume. They were a brand that really stood out to me and made me think they were completely different to everything else that was on the market at the time. And that's really what just sent me down that rabbit hole of collecting Mugler fragrances. Question 8 is a really hard one. What is your favourite discontinued fragrance? Well, I think I've got loads in my collection that are discontinued and that I will really sadly miss when I finish my bottles of them. But I think the ones that got away are the ones that really are the ones that I think about a lot. So, for example, when other people send me samples of things that are discontinued and I just wish that I owned a bottle. So John sent me a sample of his Imperial Tea by Kilian, the original version, not the reformulated version that they've just re-released. That one is stunning to me. It's a really kind of green jasmine tea fragrance, just beautiful. Another one that was sent to me by Lizzie that I think about a lot is Eau de Minuit by Lolita Lempicka, also Guerlain's French Kiss. I recently reviewed a lot of Guerlain fragrances and there was one in there called Rose Cherie that really reminded me of a French Kiss, but I just, all through wearing Rose Cherie, I just kept thinking, yes, but it's not French Kiss. And yeah, the ones that get away are the ones that really haunt you, aren't they? They're the ones that you think about, and yeah, beautiful fragrances. But really, I think out of all of those 3, the one that I would really love a bottle of would be Imperial Tea. Question 9 is, what type of fragrance content do you like to consume? So I think I really like the history side and I like the insider industry kind of side of fragrance content. I think that's a really rare type of content on YouTube, and I particularly love just learning things that I don't know. I'm someone who just wants to know all the facts about fragrance, and I find that kind of content, the stuff that I don't feel like I can always have time to make, and I don't have sometimes the tools to research, I just don't have the knowledge. That's the type of content I love. But I also really like watching people on their journeys through fragrance. I like seeing people who are newly into fragrance. I like watching them discover things. I like watching their excitement as they sort of transition from designer to niche to indie. I like sort of trying to work out where they're going to stop on those kind of journeys, where they're going to find their comfort zone. I even like watching people explore things like Middle Eastern fragrance, even if it's something that I don't particularly love, like Latafa, I still enjoy watching people's opinions on those fragrances. I also really like to know why people don't enjoy fragrances. I love it when somebody is just honest enough to say, I just don't like this, and try and explain why they don't like it, because people feel almost scared to say they don't like things, especially with influencer fragrances. That can be a huge problem on YouTube because influencers tend to have a lot of people behind them, and if you diss an influencer fragrance, you can be in a lot of trouble very quickly. So I always feel like, as an audience member, I take whatever people say about influencer fragrances with a large pinch of salt, because I know from personal experience what kind of position that can put you in. So I like those. I like the general kind of content about people's likes and dislikes and why, really. And finally, question 10 is, which fragrance have you worn more than any other in your lifetime? It's got to be Marc Jacobs Lola for me. That was my signature fragrance in my 20s. I still own a bottle now. I still sometimes pick it up and wear it and enjoy it and love it. And I still love it just as much as when I first tried it back when I was 25. It just takes me back to that time in my life, and it makes me happy every time I smell it. And I think that is something very special with fragrance, isn't it? It's a time travel mechanism that you can sniff your way through. And I think I'm never going to not love that fragrance. And I think that really shows how consistently in your life some smells can be loves and other smells you just move on from. But there are just some, I think it's the memory thing. It's how intertwined it is with your lifetime and how it takes you somewhere. And Lola takes me somewhere. Lola takes me to a really happy time in my life when I wasn't rich. I wasn't in a great job. I didn't have a nice house. I lived in a tiny flat. In many ways, it wasn't a perfect life, but I was just full of hope, and it was a great time to be, 25 basically. So, yeah, Lola by Marc Jacobs. So that's the final question in this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed the video, then please press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And please let me know your answers to some of these questions. I'd be really interested to know, for example, the last question, which is the most worn fragrance in your life over the course of your lifetime. I think we're going to get a really wide variety of answers here. And yeah, I just think that really says something about a person, doesn't it? The one that they've loved for the longest time, the one that they search out still. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.